Badass Attitudes, licensed here, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Turn up your energy with Fruitful Friday. Here's Kelly Orchard, certifying badasses, one podcast at a time.
So welcome all of you who are here to watch me give you some mental health mindset tips, and then we're going to do a little bit of badass work. Okay, we're going to tap into your badass self today, and I have a couple of free stuff for you because I just can't bear to leave you without any good stuff. Okay, so first things first, a little bit about me. As you know, the badass lady, I hear that all the time. Hey, badass, how you doing? And I love it. That does not get old. Being called a badass does not get old, and that's why I developed the program Licensed to be Badass, flipping the format on the fear of failure. Well, that's not all this is about today. And you might be wondering, well, what makes Kelly Orchard such a badass? You may know me. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. So yes, I am a badass certifier, but I'm also a licensed psychotherapist and treat depression and anxiety. That's what I specialize in. And I'm trained specifically in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I love positive psychology and neuroscience. So I get a little nerdy. I really do, because it's all very technical, but the program that I created by helping you create your badass soundtrack, it just takes away all of the necessary science to it, as long as you understand that it is scientific, but it's way fun, more fun than any other tool that I've tried using in my life. But first, a little bit about me. I'm a second generation radio broadcaster. That means that my dad was in broadcast before I was ever born. I'm the youngest of four and the only girl. And so it was my dad's dream to build, own, and operate his own radio station. So I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. He worked for a big radio station in Los Angeles. And when I was in high school, we moved to the high desert, Victorville, to build the first of 5 radio stations. Yes, I actually have a radio station named after me in Bakersfield, California. The call letters are KLLY. And my dad built that station when I was 21. But I went on the air, and I was a radio personality, and I sold advertising, and I was involved in my community and a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I served on a bunch of committees, and I did promotions and marketing, and that's where I cut my teeth in business for 20 years. Operating radio stations, hiring, training, selling, coaching, teaching, being a radio personality, being out in the community, putting together promotions and all that. Well, we don't own the stations anymore, and I've had a few other things that I've done. But, you know, a lot of you might say, a lot of people have asked, okay, so why did you become a licensed psychotherapist? You had this job in radio. Well, in 2006, so I was a single mom raising 3 kids, self-employed. My dad and I, we had transitioned from running radio stations, and now we were consulting radio and television stations for FCC compliance. Once again, a little nerdy. It's not the most glamorous job in radio or broadcasting, and a lot of broadcasters had told us that we're like the morticians of broadcasting. It's a job that has to get done, but nobody wants to do it. And we've done that for 20 years. But during that time in 2006, one day on the 4th of July week, on one weekend, 4th of July in 2006, I ended up in the emergency room struggling from heart failure. That's right. My heart was failing. Now, it was an undiagnosed arrhythmia that my cardiologist has said must have been affecting me for like 3 months to cause my heart to fail. And one more day on the couch, I would have not been here anymore. So that began the journey of 2.5 years to regain my house back. My entire career was derailed. I really had anticipated, by this time in 2006, my kids were teenagers, and my youngest was 15. So he was just a couple of years away from me being able to launch him into adulthood, where I thought at this point I could launch an executive career in broadcasting. In fact, I was working with the National Association of Broadcasters with a leadership training program, trying to buy some radio stations. But my life and my career was derailed. I ended up hospitalized. I had to take a lot of medications. My heart rate was going so fast, and it changed everything for me. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story here, but the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was the catalyst that caused me to want to help people. It changed everything for me. I suffered from anxiety and depression during that time and didn't know where to go for help. My whole life was derailed. I was too sick to go anywhere. My career was no good anymore. And I was losing money, and I was losing my house. Does that sound kind of like what's going on today? Now, I'm not saying I've been through this. I'm just saying that I've been through something similar. And honestly, if you've lived any amount of time of your life, you probably have too. There's something that has happened, whether it's been a job loss, you've lost a home, a relationship has ended, somebody in your life has died, you've lost a relationship. These are all things that are going to impact your life and just could derail you. Now, I'll tell you the story. I tell the story when I do my speaking engagements, but for this purpose, I don't want to go too long on this because I want to get to the good stuff. So here's what you might be suffering from. And I know this from my clients. So I took some notes about some key phrases or some feelings that they were having and thought, I wonder how this would apply to you. And I wanted to normalize this for you. So here you go. Welcome to Minding Your Mental Health and Unlocking Your Badass Self. We're just going to do this really quickly, and then I want to go on to the fun stuff. So the characteristics of normal grief. I wanted to share this with you because you are grieving. This is the symptoms of grief and loss. Now, after I finished grad school, I went, you have to do an internship. You have 2 years of grad school, then you have to do 3,000 hours as an intern. Believe me, in my career path, there was several times where I thought, why am I working for minimum wage when I could actually go out and sell radio time and make more money? But I had to really focus and stay on track, stay disciplined with what I was doing. But one of the things that I did was I spent some time working at a hospice agency, and I was their bereavement coordinator. I was the grief counselor. So I learned a lot about grief and became specially trained in grief. And actually, grief is my favorite thing. I know that sounds awful, but I've experienced it myself with the loss of 2 brothers and loss of jobs and loss of my health and loss of my career. I've had a lot of grief. It's important for you to know that grief doesn't necessarily mean the death of somebody. So what you may be experiencing right now is, I don't know, have you lost your business? Have you lost your freedom or the freedom to be able to just leave your house? Are you sick also? Are you financially struggling? Okay, so these are all things that you can be grieving over. Okay, any loss we grieve over. So here's some of the characteristics of normal grief. Maybe you want to write them down, or you want to just, if you're not in your head, just click like or do something for me. Let me know that you get this. Okay, so how about just the physical sensations of grief? Weight changes, sickness, appetite changes, feeling knotted up, can't catch your breath, you got a headache, chest pain, low energy, dizziness, tension, fatigue, numbness, sighing a lot, a dream-like feeling, maybe you're nausea, pains, blunted senses, and weakness. Okay, so that's just physical sensations. What about your behaviors? Okay, so remember, this is normal grief. Okay, normal, and nobody grieves the same way. So maybe crying or appetite disturbances, sleeping disturbances, disorganization, withdrawal, dreams, relentless overactivity, keeping yourself so busy so you can't have time to think about anything. How about the need to talk about whatever you're losing, like constantly? Avoidance of talking. Okay, parallel there. How about, getting rid of any reminders? I don't know. Sometimes people, if you've lost your job, you get rid of anything that you had that had to do with the work. That might be something that you're doing. I don't know. Maybe, and then wearing, okay, some of these do have to do with grief. So we're going to move on. Maybe you're smoking and drinking a lot. Are you coping with, consuming and abusing substances? Your thought patterns. Okay, so thought patterns of normal grief is forgetfulness, confusion, blocking thoughts of disbelief. I can't believe this is happening. Yeah. Okay. And then, basically the memories and missing things. Okay. And then your feelings are apathy, sadness, anxiety, isolation. Who isn't isolated right now? Maybe you're angry. Okay. So, and relief. When I studied the grief world, there are 5 stages of grief and dying. And this was founded by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who did a study. And actually the study that she did was on death and dying, okay? But it did transition into the signs of or symptoms and signs of grief. However, in death and dying, they are linear, okay? But in grief, it's not linear. So there's 5. So here's what they are. There's anger, depression, acceptance, bargaining, and denial. Okay, so denial is this isn't happening. Okay, this is just not happening. All right, and then there's anger. Okay, well, anger it comes out in different ways. It could be with some, it could be, irrational behavior. It could be lashing out at other people. It could be you just taking things out on yourself. Okay. So remember that anger is part of grief. All right. And depression. Okay. So let's look at depression. Depression sometimes looks different in people, and men and women specifically. Men might get irritable when they're depressed. Women tend to cry when we're depressed. We also like to eat chocolate. And chocolate does help boost your mood. So just remember those signs and symptoms of grief, and it's completely, completely normal. I also read an article, of course, and I subscribe to everything psychology or broadcast related or business related. So I'm getting a lot of psychology things. And so I found an article, and I just thought I would share a few things for you, things that are totally normal things that you're feeling right now. All right, maybe you burned out. Think about it. Every aspect of adjusting to this new situation takes a lot of energy. Even if all you're trying to do is just navigate not going to work, or maybe your kids are home now and you're trying to figure out homeschool, you might be burned out a little bit, okay? So there's a lot of stuff that you're doing, all right? Okay, you might be surprisingly calm. That's kind of with me. I stay calm in situations like this. I think it's from experience, but I'm also like you, I have not been untouched by this. I've got a household of 5 over here, and it's 3 generations. So we don't all have the same interests. We don't all have the same schedules. And so we're all trying to learn to navigate how to manage in this house. I also have several different circumstances that have been impacted with my life. Maybe you're struggling from working from home. A lot of people do. I know that there's been a lot of people come on and say, here's an expert on how to, navigate your working from home. And I started to wonder, who's an expert at this, at being displaced? Nobody. But there are people who can teach you, better ways to be organized. Me, I've been working from home my whole life. If you want me to give you some tips, I will. I learned how to chunk your work into stuff, take a break, make sure you take that mental health break, and shut your office door when you're not at work. Maybe you're stuck and unsure about what to do next. I don't really like that people are calling this our new normal, because there's nothing normal about this. And I don't want this to be my new normal. Do you? So those are some of the things I wanted to share with you. You are not alone. So 15 minutes of symptoms. Are you over it? I know, me too. But I wanted to share some fun things with you. So here's one thing I'm going to do. When I was looking for work after grad school and during my internship and then afterwards, I show my resume to people. You've done this in business. You get your resume together and you submit a resume, and they look at my resume and they see this extensive background in broadcasting. And then they see I'm wanting to be an intern as a psychotherapist, and they're psychotherapists. They're like, what happened? And so I shared with them the story about my heart struggles and how it derailed my entire life. The first things happened was that my heart rate was going so fast, they had to give me medication to slow it down, and then other medications to thin my blood and balance my blood pressure and strengthen my heart. And they were highly toxic, really toxic medications. But the one medication that was bringing my heart rate down was causing it to go too slow. So my cardiologist said, we got to put a pacemaker in to act as a governor, because my heart rate was dropping down into the 30s when I was sleeping, and he was concerned that my heart would just stop. I mean, gosh, can you imagine? I know a lot of you have had heart issues, and my heart goes out to you. So anyway, so I have a pacemaker, and then the medications weren't controlling the arrhythmia. My heart was still having, AFib episodes daily. On average, it was 3 hours per day. I was a very unique case. Not 3 hours in one time, but periodically throughout the day, which caused a lot of anxiety, which caused me to be agoraphobic and didn't want to leave the house because I never knew when my heart was going to act out, kind of like a toddler that doesn't behave themselves. That's how my heart was. In fact, my cardiologist just told me that. So anyway, I had 3 surgical procedures called catheter ablation to basically rewire my heart. And after the third, within a year, and after the third one, my cardiologist says, okay, if you haven't had an arrhythmia within 6 months, I'll consider you cured. Well, 6 months went by, no more arrhythmias. I haven't had any since. I've had the pacemaker replaced and everything else. So when I was looking for a job, people asked me what happened, tell them the story, and they said, you should write a book. Well, I got to tell you something. One of the greatest tools that I love, and I always share with my psychotherapy clients and my coaching clients, is start journaling. Journaling, it gets everything out of you, okay? So there's a physiological benefit to it as well. One of the things I know is like you have these thoughts and they're going to swirl around in your head. Whether they're negative or positive, it doesn't matter. They're swirling. Well, when you write them down, they make them concrete and then you can see them. Well, so I've been keeping a journal since I was 15. So my entire heart journey was documented. So when they said write a book, wasn't that hard to do. I just took journal entries and then I used the psychology that I was learning, and that came to Heart Lessons. So Heart Lessons is my personal journey, and I call it a story of healing in the midst of heart failure that will inspire you to follow your heart. Now, this isn't all about me, and I'm sorry if you think that it is, but I'm going to give you a copy of this book for free. I'm going to put a link in the comments or somewhere. I'm going to provide you with the PDF of this because there are some really great psychological principles in here too. So you can read about my heart journey and the lessons that I was learning, because I want to encourage you to learn some lessons while we're on lockdown, because that is going to unlock your badass self. Okay, so the Heart Lessons includes just a couple chapters. It's a short book. You could read it in like an hour, but there's some things you can ask yourself, okay? So they include lessons in surrendering. Okay, you can't help what's going on right now. Whether your business is closed or whether you're having to work from home or you've got this crazy schedule with your kids at home or you're out of money and you're collecting unemployment, I don't know what your circumstances are, and I have a lot of empathy for you. But one thing you got to do is surrender. It doesn't mean quit, okay? Sometimes people look at surrender as like, what do you mean give up? It's not give up. It's mean you can't control this. You have to let it go. I have a chapter in Lessons in Surrendering where I talk about lessons in water skiing, and I share that with all of at every single one of my workshops where, we hang on to things too tightly and, it's like, you got to let go. So the first chapter is Lessons in Surrendering. And then I've got a really great chapter in Lessons in Grief. So the things that I just shared with you about the symptoms of grief and some tools on how to work through it are in the book, okay? So don't worry if you didn't take notes or anything like that. I'm going to give you the link. I'm just going to give it away to anybody who wants it, okay? And then I have Lessons in Listening. It's really important for you to be listening to your thoughts and what's going on with you right now, which is always why I encourage journaling. If you make that a new routine, it's always been very helpful for people. And then Lessons in Discipline. This takes a lot of discipline, what we're going through right now, doesn't it? I mean, the discipline not to get angry, discipline not to lash out, a discipline, how about just the discipline to not go stir crazy, right? And maybe you're having a discipline to get up and get dressed every day, brush your teeth, take a shower, wash your hair. I did my hair for you today, by the way. I haven't done my hair this whole time, 3.5 weeks. I think it's about a month. Yes, I have to get things done to it, so don't comment on the roots or anything like that. I'm like the rest of you. But I did put on makeup for you, and it's like I'm not trying to be unauthentic, but you're welcome. So anyway, and then of course, Lessons in Patience. It's going to take a lot of some time for us to get through this. I don't want to call this our new normal. I really don't. But I do think that this is a good time for us to reflect on the things about our career, our relationships, our life that maybe weren't working so great. So, all right, so to tap into your badass self, okay, so now you're not alone. And I want to be able to share with you about tapping into your badass self. Now, when I created License to be Badass, now you just heard a little bit of my background. Everything I've done, this was like a creative mind explosion for me. I was frustrated with myself one day, and I knew I wanted to work with badasses, but I can't own the word badass. And so I wanted it to be something unique to me. And what is something that's unique to me? Because people have called me a badass. They started calling me a badass after I recovered from my heart failure. But there's all sorts of other things that people have called me badass for, and it's just a mindset. It's just an attitude of I'm not giving up. No matter how hard I fall, no matter how many times I fall down, what's the alternative? I'm not quitting. Does that make me badass? Okay. Probably makes you badass too, right? So that's why I was like, you're a badass if you've been through any kind of struggle in life, and this is going to make you over the top badass. So you're not alone. So all this comes down to is flipping the format on how you're thinking about your situation. So we need to flip the negative to positive. And in this particular Learn It Live, I'm only going to share one tip for you. But another thing I'm going to do for you is I'm going to do my badass certification class free. I usually charge $100 for that, and I'm going to do it for free. And I will share information with you at the end of this on how to join in my class for free. But in the meantime, I did wanted to share with you about gratitude, the benefits of gratitude. I know it's really hard to find things to be thankful for right now. If you're losing a lot, yeah. But when you have nowhere else to go, where else are you going to go? You got to look at gratitude, the things you can be thankful for. You know, there was a quote, and this is an anonymous quote. I'm not claiming that it's mine, and I don't know who it is, but I found it today when I was researching, is that gratitude doesn't cancel out what's hard in our lives, but rather reminds us of what and who we have. So I want to encourage you to start working on some gratitude on a daily basis. Now, what I tell my clients is, like a gratitude list can start with just 5 things to be grateful for. Sometimes it's a little challenging to do, when you're not able to go anywhere. You might have to get creative and create things to be thankful for. Maybe you can be thankful, I don't know, that you didn't have to blow dry your hair today, or that, your socks are clean, or silly things like that. I know it is. I always be thankful when I find a penny, a lost penny, because, it's like, it's just silly. I know. Or I'm thankful that the roses are growing. Now, I was talking to a client earlier, and out my window in my backyard, my rose bushes are just like blooming like crazy because of all of this rain that we've had. And if there's nothing else that I could be thankful for, it was those beautiful roses that I couldn't wait to go out and smell. So practicing gratitude, what happens is that neuroscience, in 2009, there was a study done by the National Institute of Health that studied the brain chemistry, the neurotransmitters that go on in your brain when people practice gratitude. So they studied those who practice gratitude on a daily basis and those who don't. And what they noticed was that the neurotransmitters and the serotonin levels were increasing on those that were practicing gratitude on a daily basis. So basically, you're rewiring the neural pathways of your brain when you put positivity into it. And I know that something like this is not going to be enough for you to get it. And I appreciate that. That's why I'm going to offer you my class for free. And I'm going to tell you all about that at the end of this. But I wanted to share with you about gratitude first. That's why one of the things I did with my Apple a Day was I created a journal page, because, the Apple a Day is a blog. It's an audio blog. It's 60 seconds on wisdom, success, and personal growth. And I noticed that clients were bringing in the printed copy, and then they were writing notes on it on what they thought and everything. And since I encourage journaling, that's how the Apple a Day books were created. So here's what I want for you. So whether you're a manager, a colleague, a customer, or a parent, someone else, you can tell them what you're grateful for and what makes them so great. Okay? You can be thankful that, I don't know, you still have your work, or you have somebody else who's still working. One of the things that I'm really grateful for, guess what? My son and his girlfriend are in the restaurant business. My son is a chef. I have a personal chef at home. He's unemployed, but he's dying to cook. And so we're very grateful that we have a chef in our house. And I've had some of my friends tell me how lucky I am for that.
Certifying badasses one podcast at a time. Fruitful Fridays with Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day and Weekend Vibes. Let's take a bite of some Apple a Day topics.
Hey, everybody. Sometimes I get on here and I wonder, what the heck am I going to talk about? But that's not true. I mean, I think I get nervous, just like everybody else does. And but I am here on Friday. Hi, everybody. Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier here. I have some hope for you. But it was last week I did a free online version of my Badass certification class. But I offered the whole content free. But if you wanted to make it official, to become a certified badass, then you could pay for the class. And so I've had numerous people want to become official. And so ever since then, it's been so much fun to be able to go out and certify them and give them their badass ID card. And then I wanted to call out one of my certified badasses. Her name is Cynthia Nordskog. I'm joking. She is a certified badass. I love her to death. But she tells me I said, I realized as I'm going around getting these pictures of these certified badasses that you are certified, but for some reason I never got a picture of you with your ID card and your coffee mug. And so she says to me, it's like, oh, I know we need to do that. And she goes, but I'll tell you the truth, I don't have any idea where my ID card is. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, certified badasses should have it in their wallet, number one. But number two, it's like badasses can also be flexible and forgiving. And I have another one. So I'm just going to send it off to her because, I had to admit that when I did my workshop, okay, it was live and I had some technical difficulties. And I always say, it's like, part of being badass is being able to acknowledge when something isn't right, or you kind of have to be nimble and make some adjustments. So even though I'm calling my friend out today, it's like, it's all in good fun and love, just because, she was one of my power partners. And it's like, what do you mean you don't have your ID card? And we are all busy professionals. So I think I'm going to go over to see her today and have her pull out her wallet, and we're just going to put it right on there. So I go to those kind of lengths to make sure that you have all the tools you need to be absolutely a certified badass. But I did want to provide you with some hope. I've been having some fun with some creative videos, and I don't know, maybe you've been seeing them on my social media posts. And it's just, it's like, here's the thing. It's called Radio Are You Listening? And the reason I'm doing that is not because I don't think radio's listening, but because I know that the message that I have been putting out there for years is consistent. But I also know this: preventative maintenance, preventative, and being proactive with your mental health, with your mindset, with your your attitude. If you be proactive and you start your day with something positive, it'll set you off in a much more positive day. So when I say, "Are you listening?" It's just, here's the thing. I know that when crisis occurs, sometimes we're not prepared, but if we have some tools in our toolbox, then we're able to navigate through those crises just a little bit easier, with a little bit more peace of mind, and maybe be able to look at things with a different perspective. So all I'm asking you, and this is all good for all of you, it's like, yes, I'm a psychotherapist. Yes, I'm a confidence builder, and I'm a badass certifier. I'm also, I love radio. Radio cured my broken heart. And if you follow my video series, I'm just going to be telling you some powerful stories, probably about what I've done, because I have these creative bursts every once in a while, and I start writing notes copiously, and then I don't know what to do with them. But part of my process of coping with all of this stuff that's going on today is I get creative. I have to dig into some sort of creative project. And I have learned that editing video and doing voiceovers is my creative project. It helps me stir up warm, happy memories from a career that I have loved for a very long time. And so I just decided I'm just going to do this series and bring up some old articles that I've been writing, because as I resurfaced with my radio broadcasting friends, and I said, I'm still here to help. I love this industry and I'm still here. And I was asked, well, maybe you should write some articles for the trades. And I've already done that. So rather than try to rewrite them or to resubmit them, I'm just kind of sharing the articles that I'd written previously because they're still relevant. I still have had the same message. And the same message is for you. So I wanted to give you some hope today as I go about my day. So I wanted to share with you about Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day. This is something that I've offered to broadcasters, and I'm working with several radio stations right now about airing the audio feature of Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day, which is 60 seconds on wisdom, success, and personal growth. And the stories that I'm getting about how they're going to use them on their radio station for their community, for their audience, to provide hope and gratitude and new habits and letting go. Those are the messages for this period. I love it. And so I just wanted to share with you, and I'm giving you an opportunity in the comments to go to the sales page. There's 4 versions of this, one for every season. But today I just wanted to not randomly, I wanted to give you some hope, and it's wanted to give you it right out of my Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day fall season. So here's what it's called, and this is how it looks, you guys. It was like I did these as a 60-second audio. All right, so it's one page that you read, and then you have a journal page next to it. Yesterday at a therapy session, I handed one of these books to one of my clients, and I just said, open it up to any page. Doesn't matter, just pick a random page. It wasn't this one, it was my spring season one. Client opens it up, looks at it, and it was like, independence. Is your core value independence? What do you need from independence? Could not believe that was exactly where they landed, and then read it, and then had a whole lot to say about it. And I was like, okay, write the date, and then write what you think about what you just read. Because what will happen is that you'll put this book down, and maybe you'll continue to work on it, because there's about 90 in each book. It lasts about 3 months. So there's one for every day for a whole year. And I said, just write it down, and then, go do other ones. And then maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, you're going to pick up this book again, and you're going to see all these little entries that you made in this book about what you thought about these apples, and you're going to see your growth. You're going to see how much you've grown. So I wanted just to share this one with you today before I head off for the rest of my day to go go officially certify some badasses. So this one is called Positively Hopeful. And I just think on this Friday, we all need a little bit more hope. So in his book, Positive Thinking, How to Be Positive by Eliminating Negativity, David A. Hunter writes, "You can't just wait until the last minute before you start to think in a positive way in hope of helping yourself out of a negative situation. It would be like waiting until you are severely dehydrated before you finally start to drink water." As a coach and licensed psychotherapist, I see this with many clients. By the time they realize they need help, they're already so dehydrated that they don't know what to do. Negative experiences are often the cause of, and as well as the result of, negative thinking. When we are thinking negatively, we lose hope. Lost hope leads to depression and anxiety. Hope can be rediscovered with positive thinking. It's never too late to start practicing positive thinking. Start by practicing gratitude, listening to upbeat music, and filling your mind with images that bring you joy. Do this, and you'll become positively hopeful. Now, I know that my badass certification class last week was CPR for your mental health, and I am going to offer it again. So just keep following me. And the radio Are You Listening series, well, that's just it. I just want you to listen so that I can give you some good tips and tools to help you navigate through this. And then if you want to work with me, we got this whole apple a day thing going on with some radio stations. I would love to share it with you. So you guys have a great Friday. I'm Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. I want to talk to you. So I'm going to send you some opportunities to have some chats with me. No obligation necessary. But I tell you, this apple a day thing, I'm glad to be kind of stirring it back up again, because I am the Badass Certifier. And what they say is, if an apple a day keeps the doctor away, then Kelly Orchard's apple a day will keep the crazy away. And if an apple a day is an important and essential ingredient to a healthy diet, then Kelly Orchard's apple a day is an essential ingredient to being certifiably badass, because you need those tools in your toolbox every day, and that's like 4 in 1. So you guys have a great day. Kelly Orchard, Badass Certifier, reminding you to be bold, be brave, be confident, be badass. See you later. Bye.
Kelly Orchard's podcast for successful badassery.
Thanks for listening and getting one step closer to being licensed to be badass. Be sure to subscribe to continue on the bus to Badassville. Snag your Badass Habits ebook at licensedtobebadass.com. You can stay in the slow lane and get just enough tools for successful badassery, one podcast at a time. Or you can join the Badass Ambassador crew in the fast lane by checking your baggage with my Licensed to be Badass integrated program with videos, worksheets, and group coaching for motivation, mindset, and a fresh approach to living a fruitfully badass life.
Tune up when you tune in each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with one focus in mind: your advancement and progress in wisdom, success, personal growth, confidence, and positivity. Be bold, be brave, be confident, be badass.